Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy. Well, hey there, dear ones. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 265, and you're in for a treat today. We are talking about the midlife confidence crisis. How to stop overthinking, trust yourself, and walk into any room like you belong. I love this topic, you guys, because I know how most of us struggle with this, and it shows up sometimes in the craziest ways. If you've ever caught yourself kind of overthinking a simple decision, if you've ever caught yourself being super unsure what to wear, oh my gosh, can I wear this? Am I too old? Does this look like I'm trying to look too young? If you've ever felt paralyzed by self-doubt, even making small decisions, maybe even asking yourself these questions, by the way. Am I too old to start over? Who am I anymore? What if I fail? What will people think? Or saying something during the day and then at night really overthinking, oh my gosh, what did I say? And did I offend or did I whatever? I believe that all of these things come from one thing, and that is lack of confidence. And we can get into a spiral of this in midlife. So I want to talk about it today and give you some tools that will really help transform not just you, but the way you show up to your whole entire life, the way you show up to your relationships, the way you show up to take care of yourself is really affected by this too. I also think that a lot of us are keeping ourselves small. We are not living into our best lives, our dreams, the things that we've always wanted, because we're kind of disconnected from what we really want. So many women at this stage of life tell me, I don't even know what I really want anymore. And I think that too comes from this lack of confidence. And I think it can be made a lot worse in midlife because we're going through a lot of changes in our bodies. And that kind of makes us doubt ourselves. We don't feel like ourselves so often or like we used to. And so here's really the truth. I think for a lot of us, this isn't just a season. This kind of becomes a way of life. It can become like a full-blown confidence crisis. And if you don't learn some tools to shift out of it, it really can change the course of your life for years to come. So in this episode, we're going to unpack why midlife women experience this at kind of a higher level, how it's sabotaging us, and exactly what we can do to get our confidence back starting today in a way that is really, really meaningful. It really does impact everything from how you relate to yourself, to how you relate to your spouse, to how you show up to your kids, to how you show up to your work. For so many of us, self-doubt has become our identity, and it's not serving us. It's also not serving the people in our lives. So if this resonates with you, stay to the end because I have a special invitation that I believe really could change everything for you. But first, let's dive into why midlife women experience a confidence crisis to begin with. Well, let me start with this. Number one, you're living from an old identity that you've probably been living with for a while, and it's kind of just gotten worse as you've gotten older. And this old identity is likely keeping you stuck. This is an identity that maybe you took on from what other people said about you, from what somebody told you when you were young, from, society's sort of messaging to women that hasn't exactly been helpful. And I really do believe that we all kind of have an identity ceiling. And what I mean by that is that we have these set of beliefs, these set of thoughts that we think about ourselves, what we're capable of, what we deserve, what we could achieve, what's realistic for us. And because we have this kind of subconscious ceiling, you never will be able to rise above what you really believe is possible for yourself. And the trouble is most of these beliefs were formed a long time ago, unconsciously by people that we would never even take advice from. If we heard that today, maybe, you were told when you were younger that you weren't the confident one, or that you weren't the one, who was good at whatever, or that you were too much and taking up too much space. How many of you, by the way, like me, got that on your report card every time? Good student, but talks too much. I'm like, Well, now I kind of talk for a living. So there. Or maybe you've internalized, and I know this is something that I have done, that the only way that you're valuable is based on what you're doing or how you're performing or whatever, how you're kind of taking care of everyone else. And I think without realizing it, a lot of us are living our lives based on kind of an outdated identity. We're making decisions based on an outdated version of ourselves. And you truly cannot outgrow that if you don't change the story that you're telling yourself. If deep down you believe, I'm just not the kind of person who could do that, then you won't do it. If you down deep believe, it's too old for me to start. Oh, I'm too old to start over. It's too late for me to reinvent myself. Then you will stay at that stuck level. You won't go for the things that you could be going for. If you believe, I don't belong in certain spaces, then you'll shrink yourself to try to either fit in, or you won't even, put yourself in rooms that you really do want to be in. And I promise you that that way of living is optional. You can choose to believe whatever you want to believe. You can choose to recreate yourself. We'll talk about that towards the end, about some ways that you can do that. But this is not something that is set in stone. You get to reinvent yourself whenever you decide to. And let me tell you, it is so much fun, you guys. I remember when I was sort of transitioning from being a physician, and then I stayed home, homeschooled my kids for a while. When I kind of decided to enter back into the workforce, I really did have to reinvent myself. And when I was practicing as a physician, there was so much of my true personality and so much of my like outgoing sort of crazy side that I kept kind of under wraps. And when I started my own business from home, I'm like, no, I just want to be who I fully am. I want to dress how I really want to dress. I want to be able to fully be myself. And so I have been able to do this really time and time again. This is possible. Do not think you are stuck living in the identity that maybe you've been in for years, but that is sort of limiting you in some way, keeping you small, not having you living as the fullest expression of who God made you to be. So I want you to think about this question. What is one belief about you that maybe you haven't questioned, but that if you did question it, maybe it's not even really true? And who would you be without that belief? I had a belief for years, for instance, that I was bad with money. And when I started my own business, that's not a great belief to have, because now, I'm dealing with a lot more money myself than I ever, dealt with. And I had to decide, this is an identity that I don't want to keep. So I started reading money books and listening to money podcasts. And, 10 years later, I'm running a multi-million dollar business, dealing with lots of money, making investments, having to trust myself, sometimes not making great investments, you guys, but really having my own back and deciding that I am a woman who can be trusted with money and all of the decisions that come with that. So if you think about like, what is your main I am statement, that will tell you what identity you're currently living with and if that is something that you want to keep. So I have just decided on purpose that I am a woman who can be trusted with money, who knows how to make good investments, who knows, how to manage money in a powerful way. And you just get to decide what you want your I am statement to be and how you want to start living into that. Confidence is really not so much about forcing yourself to act differently. It really is updating your identity to match the woman that you are becoming. So raise your hand if you know you need that. Number 2 is that you've just been conditioned to doubt yourself. So a lot of times the reasons that we're experiencing this crisis is because we've been told sort of this story, I think, like that we should be accommodating, that we shouldn't be too much, that we should shrink ourselves, that we should people please other people, that we should, seek permission, and we aren't living into our full leadership. You guys, when I read Proverbs 31, I see an amazing, confident, powerful woman who isn't afraid to be who God made her to be. We're not doing ourselves or the people around us any favors by doing this, by kind of shrinking, by being wallflowers, by not speaking up, by not really living into all that we could be. Um, for so long, I can think of times when I just wanted to be liked. I remember when I first started my coaching business and I was so scared to put it out there because, I had been a physician before. And of course, in my mind, that's like, oh, that's like something people respect so that you can say you're a physician and then people are going to know what that means and respect that. But when I got certified as a life coach and I wanted to build my coaching business, I was like, had a lot of self-doubt, like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? Are they going to be like, oh, well, that's kind of a downgrade from, what you did before? And I will tell you the truth. As I have really embraced what I love, I absolutely love what I do every day. I would never go back to practicing traditional medicine, no matter how much more people would respect me if I did that. I love how I help women. I love what I do. And I have just learned that I can't live for other people. I can't live for their approval. I can't live so that they approve and like what I do. I have to trust myself and know that I am answering the call to my life. I am living fully into the gifts that God has given me. And I don't need other people's approval to do that. I can just live confidently and fully into, these gifts I've been given. So where are you living in some doubt, uh, where you're kind of seeking the approval of others, where you're kind of weighing your worth based on what other people think, where, you've conditioned yourself to shrink, to be small, to play small so that other people will approve. We have to stop doing that because we're not doing us any favors and we're not doing anybody else any favors when we do that. Because what happens is you're basically coming to your relationships going, will you approve of me? You're asking other people to give you something that only God can give you. And when we learn to live fully in the confidence of the worth that He gave us, the calling that He has on our lives, and we're not trying to seek this sort of validation or approval from other people, it's so much more magnetizing. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. Okay, the third reason I think that a lot of women, especially in midlife, end up living with a lack of confidence is because it just becomes a habit. Self-doubt just becomes a habit. We just question ourselves. We just think we can't make decisions. We just decide we're not capable. Again, it can be such insignificant things, but if you find yourself always wanting the opinion of someone else, oh my gosh, do you like this? Should I wear this? What do you think about this? I can remember a time when I would have been more like that. And now I'm like, no, I love this, whatever. I love these earrings. I love this dress. I love this, whatever. And because I love it, I don't have to seek the approval of other people. They don't have to like it. And I don't have to make that mean anything about me. But even something as insignificant seemingly as what we're wearing, we can have so much self-doubt. Again, I mentioned this at first, but you can have a conversation with people and then at night you might just replay that over and over. Did I say the right thing? I wonder how that came across. I hope I didn't say something that I shouldn't have or whatever. Instead of really owning who we are and learning how to show up, because I'll tell you something, when you live from a place of self-doubt, it's kind of exhausting to be around people like that. And you do yourself and that people around you so many favors when you come to your relationships with that question settled. Like, I know my worth. I know who I am. Now, I can just show up for you. I can just show up and be present. And we'll give some suggestions for doing that at the end. I do want to go over some ways that this sort of crisis of confidence is sabotaging us. I'm going to give you some real life examples of how we're doing this. So number one, you stay silent when you should speak up, when you want to speak up. I did this for so long, you guys, in my relationship. I wanted to be so accommodating, so easy that I just wouldn't even say so much as what I wanted to eat. We do this with friends. We do this with our spouse. And, I think I picked this sort of habit up from being, in a dysfunctional childhood where it was better to sort of go along with everything and stay silent. But over time, this creates disconnection. It creates resentment. People don't even truly know who you are because you're not willing to show them who you are. They only know the version of you that just wants to keep the peace. So if you find yourself doing that, definitely decide today that you're going to break through that. Decide today that confidence isn't necessarily about being loud. It's about being boldly who you really are and allowing people to see that. It's kind of like the vulnerability of allowing people to see who you really are. I can think of, I host a live event every year. And at my live event, I always have sort of a line dance party. I always encourage my women to wear cowboy boots and we line dance and we do, just fun stuff. And I can think of a time when I might not have done that, when I might not have embraced, oh my gosh, I love country music and I love line dancing and we'll play all kinds of music, but we're for sure going to play some good old country tunes and, do the boot, scoot, and boogie. I can just own who I am. And as a business owner, I can bring real parts of my personality even into my business. So where are you holding back who you truly are in order to sort of appease people or get their approval? The second example is like you're kind of waiting for permission to take action. Maybe you've had, a nudging to start something new, to start a business. A lot of people in my world want to become coaches or want to get certified or, want to start their business, want to start a new hobby, want to start a new health journey. But instead of acting on that desire that they truly have, they kind of wait for validation. Well, I want to see if my husband supports me. Let me see if my friends think I should do this. You guys, everybody would have probably told me I was crazy 6 or 7 years ago when I decided instead of going back to medical practice to become a life coach. And if I would have asked for all of their opinions, they would have probably been like, this is crazy. I don't even know what a life coach is. You probably should just go back and be a doctor. No, don't wait for other people's permission to do what you know in your heart you feel called to do. I knew that when I was practicing medicine, for me, the favorite part of that was when I was talking to people about their habits or, their mental and emotional resilience, basically life coaching. And so when I learned about coaching and the opportunity came up, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt so powerfully drawn to it. I can't even describe it to you. And I'm so thankful that I didn't outsource that to other people and ask a bunch of people if I should do it. As a matter of fact, you guys, I don't think I told anybody I was doing it. I think I just did it. And then I was like, oh yeah, and I just got certified as a life coach. It was so powerful. It was such a transformative moment in my own life. Number three, if you notice that you're always outsourcing your worth to other people, maybe somebody, this happens all the time, by the way, to people that I love. And I can think of times this has happened to me. You see somebody post something online and you're like, oh my gosh, they didn't invite me. You see all, friends together all somewhere and you go, oh, woe is me. They don't like me. I must not be worthy or whatever. You really are hinging your worth on how other people, whether they invite you or whatever, you suddenly are like, what did I do wrong? Instead of just owning your worth, letting God define who you are, letting his love for you, the way he cherishes you, be what really gives you that sense of worth and value. We're trying to get it from other people. Maybe, you post something online, it doesn't get a reaction you want. Let me tell you something, you guys. I've been doing social media for 15 years. About half the posts that we post on social media get no reaction. We don't make that mean one thing. We just keep offering value. We just keep showing up. And you've got to do the work on yourself so that this kind of thing doesn't destroy you. And this is work worth doing. What would change in your own life? Think about this. If you fully believed that you were worthy because God says you are, without needing to prove it to anyone else, without anyone else needing to validate it. Another real life example, the fourth one that I can think of that I hear women say all the time is that, well, I could never wear that. People say that to me all the time, you guys. I'm 55 years old and I just literally dress in things that I find inspiring, that I want to dress in, that I feel like are a true reflection of who I am. And I will hear people tell me all the time, that looks great on you, but I could never wear that. That is a sign that you are living from self-doubt, that you are not fully confident in yourself. maybe for you, it's like, oh, I used to care. Maybe I would have worn that at some point. I used to really care about that, but I don't care about that anymore. And we say that and we kind of like think, well, that's better than caring. But deep down, we do care. Deep down, it is a reflection of something about us. And, you might say to yourself, well, that's just superficial or that's just vanity. But I'm going to tell you something. If you take a little time to truly care about how you present yourself, what will happen is you'll feel confident, so confident that you don't think about yourself anymore. You'll be dressed in a way where you're like, I don't have to worry about myself. I like how I like what I'm wearing. I like how that represents me. And now I can really focus on the other people. I can really be present for them. So I think other than sort of, because some people are like, well, I don't want to be the focal point or I don't want to be ever. No, you don't have to be the focal point, but can you dress in such a way that it gives you the confidence to forget about yourself? So there's this beautiful C.S. Lewis quote: humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. And if you take good care of yourself so that the way you're presenting yourself is a way that you love, it makes you feel confident and at ease. You're not worried about how things are fitting, that you're just confident in that. Then you can think about yourself less and worry about the other people in the room. So this is a huge one for a lot of women in midlife, because our bodies are changing. And a lot of times we just get into a bad habit of just not taking good care about how we present ourselves. Okay. So even though you're outside, the way you dress, the way you look externally doesn't reflect your worth, it reflects your inner beliefs. And if you knew without a doubt that you were a woman who was valued, who was needed, who had gifts to share, who was important in God's plan for the world, then how would you show up? Start dressing like that version of you. How would she show up? How would she dress? Even one tiny little upgrade, wearing a lipstick that makes you feel confident, wearing your hair in a certain way or whatever, whatever it is for you. What's one little way that you could start doing that? So let's talk about some ways that you can get your confidence back starting today. Number one, take radical responsibility for the beliefs you have about yourself. Confidence comes from your thoughts. You get to decide how you believe, what you believe is true about yourself, the value that you bring. You get to just agree with God that He created you with all the value you'll ever have, that He called you in this life to share your gifts with the world. And in order to do that, you need to live confidently. It's really a mindset issue. Decide today. We talked about earlier the I am statement that may be holding you back. What's the I am statement that will help you live intentionally as your truest, most wise, most loving, most magnetic self? You're not doing anybody any favors by shrinking. This will give your life such an upgrade. It will give your relationships an upgrade. You will stop bringing the question of, am I worthy? Do you approve of me? To other people. You will come with that question settled, and then that will improve your relationships. It's exhausting to you and to everyone else when you're constantly bringing that question to other people. Decide that you will, with boldness, live your big, audacious life because God has equipped you. He has given you your worthiness. He gives you value, and you're going to live in such a big, bold way to serve the people around you. Number two, make a decision today, even if it's a small one, to start living in this confidence. Confidence grows when you take action, when you act. Maybe it's saying no to something that doesn't align for you. Maybe it's trying something new. Maybe it's actually sharing your real opinion about something. Maybe it's wearing that dress or getting those shoes. Maybe it's, how you're taking care of yourself. Maybe you make a bold decision and act on it today where you take great care of yourself so that you can take care of other people. I have said this so many times, and it's so true. I am so thankful for the me 7 years ago that started doing CrossFit and got strong and got healthy, because you know what? Now I have these amazing little grandbabies. And I want to be able to crawl on the floor and climb the stairs with them and run and play with them and do all of the things that they want to do. And I couldn't do that if I hadn't taken really good care of myself. So maybe you make a bold decision and a bold action today. Go out and go for a walk. Take that class. Show your brain that you are a woman who is going to take impeccable care of herself so that you can take great care of other people too. Number 3, decide to be your most magnetic, most present self. This comes back to that C.S. Lewis quote. If you will take good care of yourself, you can show up to an event and not worry about yourself because you're taken care of. And now I can just show up present and curious and compassionate for other people. Already so secure in who I am. And when you show up like that, you have such a magnetic presence. People are drawn to that because you're there for other people. You're there to make them feel seen and heard. When you walk into a room already secure in yourself, you don't have to prove anything. You just are. The woman who is so fully in her own energy that she doesn't need validation, so magnetic, you guys. So I want you to think about this. I used to say this all the time. I don't remember who I heard this from. But there's 2 ways that you can walk into a room. You can walk into a room and say, here I am. And you're kind of like saying, here I am with a question because you're hoping that they all approve, that they like your outfit, that they will make you feel welcome, that they'll make you feel like you belong. You're kind of like coming in with a question. But what about if you just decided to come into the room instead of saying, here I am, and having a little question there? What about if you walked into the room and said, there you are? Because you're so taken care of that you can focus on other people. That is true confidence. It's not self-obsession, it's self-possession. You know who you are, and now you can show up for other people. It's such a powerful shift. Instead of walking into the room kind of secretly, subconsciously going, what do they think of me? How do I look? Am I okay? You go in and go, oh my gosh, I love what you're wearing. You look so radiant today. Like you go in with there you are energy. Such a powerful way to enter any room. So those are some small ways that you can start today to really shift this sort of midlife confidence crisis that a lot of us find ourselves in. Your identity, you guys, is literally just the story you keep telling yourself. This is a quote from James Clear. The whole thing goes like this. Your identity is the story you keep telling yourself. Change your story, change your life. From James Clear from the book Atomic Habits. What is the story you've been telling yourself about you? And how is that holding you back? How is that keeping you small? How is that, such an exhausting way to live when you could step into your personal power and just decide, I am going to live into the, identity, the value that God gives me because he's the one who decides my worthiness. And now I can just show up and be magnetically present for other people. If this is something that you want to work on, you guys, I want to extend an invitation to you of the first time ever that we are running this workshop. It's called the Confidence Code, and it's all about really owning your voice, owning your power, and owning your purpose. And you're going to be so surprised at what I mean by voice, power, and purpose. It's not what you think. This workshop could change everything for you. And we've got the sign up page ready for you. If you go to ediewadsworthcoaching.com/code, you can get signed up today. But we are going to teach you a step-by-step framework for how to reframe your identity to be in line with your most magnetic self, the self that God created. We will teach you how to live fully into who he made you to be. We will also give you practical tools that will help you shift right out of this self-doubt that's holding you back so that you can start showing up again, trusting yourself again. We are going to give you permission and a roadmap for reinventing yourself on your own terms in a way that has you living as the woman you are becoming. And we are going to have an incredible, amazing bonus session on style for women in midlife that you do not want to miss. This will have you feeling so at home in your own skin, ready to live as the most magnetic version of you. So do not let another season go by where you stay stuck in this self-doubt. I promise you, your future self will thank you. We would love to see you at the workshop. Head over to ediewadsworthcoaching.com/code and we will see you there. All right. Love you so much. Thank you for joining today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.